Welcome to this explainer. We've got a lot of ground to cover today because we are finally breaking down the unprecedented production details, that blinding star power, and of course, the intense online discourse surrounding Christopher Nolan's highly anticipated 2026 blockbuster, The Odyssey. Let's cut through all the rumors, the set leaks, and the official drops to see exactly how Nolan is tackling ancient Greek mythology.
Okay, let's just jump right into this with a pretty massive statement from Nolan himself regarding Homer's 3,000-year-old epic. He said, "It's not a story, it's the story." He's really emphasizing that this poem is essentially the blueprint for every modern story we tell. I mean, horror, mystery, romance, thriller, it's all in there, making it the ultimate canvas for his vision.
So let's look at Section 1, the epic trailer drops.
121.4 million. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the global view count the trailer racked up in literally just 24 hours across platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and X. To put that into perspective, that's more than double the views the first Oppenheimer trailer pulled in during the exact same time frame. It instantly became one of the biggest debuts of the year, completely proving that the appetite for this epic is absolutely off the charts.
You know, part of why the internet is losing its mind is how Nolan is handling the story's structure. Instead of starting at the beginning, we drop right in halfway through the timeline in Ithaca with Penelope and Telemachus waiting for Odysseus. And then bam, we get these massive flashbacks to the Trojan War. Yes, including the Trojan Horse, before jumping back to navigate his perilous 10-year journey home. It's the original nonlinear structure, which is just absolutely perfect for a director famous for playing with time.
Moving right along to Section 2, groundbreaking IMAX cinematography.
$250 million. Yep, you heard that right. This is officially the most expensive film of Nolan's entire career. Every single penny is being poured into creating this unprecedented scale and immersion, just making absolutely sure that every single frame feels genuinely mythic.
So what does a $250 million scale actually look like? Well, it looks like over 2 million feet of 70mm film. That is roughly 610 kilometers of physical film stock. That staggering stat makes this the very first feature film to be shot entirely on IMAX film cameras. Just try to imagine the sheer logistical nightmare of hauling that much physical film all over the globe. And to actually pull off 100% IMAX coverage, they literally had to invent brand new technology, the Keeley camera. Standard IMAX cameras are notoriously loud. Honestly, they sound like lawnmowers, which completely ruins any kind of intimate dialogue. So they engineered this custom, smaller, and vastly quieter camera just to handle the dynamic, dialogue-heavy scenes without that overwhelming mechanical roar. A real game changer. All right, on to Section 3, the star-studded cast. Here is the core lineup, and wow, it is stacked. We've got this A-list ensemble clashing over the fate of Ithaca. Matt Damon leads the charge as the wily strategist Odysseus, right alongside Anne Hathaway as Queen Penelope and Tom Holland as their son Telemachus. Back home, Robert Pattinson is playing Antinous, the arrogant lead suitor trying to steal the throne, while Zendaya steps into the divine role of Athena. And Damon's commitment here? Absolutely intense. He dropped down to 167 pounds on a strict gluten-free diet and grew a real beard for an entire year. Why go through all that? Because Nolan point-blank refused to use artificial facial hair. He demanded tactile realism to physically represent the toll of a 20-year absence. Basically, Damon had to actually live it.
Which naturally brings us to Section 4, a naturalistic take on mythology.
Instead of going the pure CGI fantasy route with glowing gods or computer-generated monsters, Nolan is really leaning into tactile realism. Divine intervention here is depicted through highly grounded natural phenomena. So the Wrath of Poseidon isn't some giant CGI man rising out of the water, it's terrifying, massive waves and severe weather. It captures the raw, overwhelming forces that ancient sailors genuinely believed were supernatural.
I love this perspective. Nolan points out that Greek heroes were the original superheroes. When you think about it, our modern comic book obsession directly traces its lineage right back to the awe these ancient stories inspired. These characters were mortals being pushed to the absolute limits of human endurance, surviving impossible, godlike odds.
Just look at this 91-day production schedule. Talk about a real-world odyssey. Tracking this across 5 countries really proves their dedication to practical, in-camera environments over relying on green screens. They went from the deserts of Morocco for Troy to Greek caves, to Italian waters, over to the black volcanic sands of Iceland for Hades, and finally to the rugged Scottish coast. They literally mapped the peril of the story all across the globe.
And to sail those waters, they didn't just build some set in a studio parking lot. No way! The production rented Draken Harald Haraldsfagre, which is the largest modern Viking longship in the world, to double as a Greek warship. Putting the cast on an actual massive wooden ship out in the open ocean meant the wind, the crashing waves, and the physical struggle were all 100% real and captured directly through the lens.
Okay, let's get into Section 5, Controversies and Online Discourse.
The second that trailer dropped, the internet basically exploded with one massive question. Why do ancient Greeks have American accents? I mean, we are all so used to historical epics defaulting to these formal British dialects, so hearing American English from an ancient king definitely caught a lot of people off guard.
The public discourse really boils down to three main flashpoints right now. First up, those linguistic choices we just mentioned, using American accents and even modern slang instead of classical theater tropes. Second, we've got wardrobe nitpicks. Historians are quick to point out that Odysseus wearing a Corinthian helmet with a red plume is historically inaccurate for the Bronze Age setting. And third, there is geopolitical backlash from human rights groups protesting the production shooting scenes in the disputed territory of Western Sahara.
So you've got this real divide. Critics are arguing that the modern slang totally breaks the historical illusion and ruins the immersion. But on the flip side, defenders counter that Nolan is intentionally prioritizing approachability. He wants these ancient figures to feel relatable to us today. Plus, they note the armor isn't a careless mistake, it's a deliberate visual homage to those classic 1960s Hollywood epics that Nolan grew up loving.
Of course, Nolan knows exactly what's going on. He noted recently that the disadvantage of keeping his projects so incredibly secret is the inevitable flood of rumors. His signature secrecy kind of acts as a blank canvas. It creates a vacuum, and the internet just rushes in to fill the void with theories, expectations, and fiery debates long before the film even hits theaters.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this to chew on. By stripping away all the magical CGI in favor of tactile nature and swapping theatrical, posh accents for grounded, everyday humanity, is Nolan about to completely rewrite the rules of the historical epic? Definitely something to think about before you take your seat in the IMAX theater this July. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.